following is a conversation with Dr. Ogamdi Emmanuel. He's a medical doctor and is currently doing his master's in human behavior and psychology. The subject of our discussion was fear, its origin, how it is seen all around us, and how we can overcome it. I really hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I want to apologize for because I've not posted in a while. I've not posted in a while, and that was because of our our elections. For those of you that don't know, in Nigeria, where we're going through, we are currently having elections. We just finished the presidential elections, and now we're about to have the one for the governors. And so, anyone that knows in Nigeria, when elections roll around, is pretty crazy. So I figured I should take some time off, and then take some time off, vote, and then come back. And most of the guests I wanted to talk to, they also wanted to, but everyone was postponing things towards until after at least the presidential election. And so that's why it has taken a while. So anyway, we are back now. Over the last few weeks, I noticed that the channel has gained a few subscribers. And so if you are new here, welcome. We are trying to create a community of free thinkers. You understand? That's why the channel is called Through the Eyes of One. And don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to comment on what part of the conversation made the most sense to you, what you agree with, or what you disagree with. It's all welcome. And so, without wasting much time, Dr. Emmanuel Ogamdi. Dr. Ogamdi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Segun Excel.
This why you're murdering my name. You studied. I know you studied medicine in China, and now you're in Romania. And you're studying. Well, what exactly are you doing your masters on?
I'm doing a master's program in clinical psychology and psychotherapy.
Oh, okay. I would
Yes,
imagine.
what about the location in Romania?
So what ignited your interest, like, from medicine? Because I would imagine that's not a linear path. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? What's the story there?
Well, I think it's more parallel, or how do you say, it's straightforward than you'd actually think. Because when I was in medical school, I did psychology as a course, and I also did psychiatry. I think in third year of medical school, third, fourth year, something like that. Being, you know how it is with Nigerians and all of us. My parents were a very huge part of why I studied medicine. So I wouldn't really say it was solely my decision, right? It was a
Yeah,
family decision. It was a group
I
decision.
understand. They took it for you. They made decision for you.
Exactly. They made me make the decision, to put it lightly. Um, so luckily I had the brains for medicine, but I didn't really enjoy the whole thing, right? And psychology and psychiatry were some of the courses that I really, really enjoyed when I was in school. And I was just amazed how the brain works and the human mind functions and all that. So after I was done and I practiced for a while, I decided this is not for me, because long hours at the hospital, 48 hours shifts and all that.
Yeah.
My God, yeah. So I
Mm.
decided to pick up and develop my interest in psychology, in the human mind, in the human brain, and all that. And that's what led me to the path I am now. So it's kind of, I mean, not too straightforward, but more straightforward than you would think.
Yeah, I understand that. Growing up in Nigeria, now, I had this discussion a while back with was good with some of my colleagues, and the discussion is, well, for the parents, they'll just the parents don't at that time. Our parents, they don't care about your passion. They just want what will give you the most money. Well, what will make you be the most comfortable. It does not matter the thing you are interested in. They don't. It's not something that they consider when they are making you think that you chose medicine. I like how you put that, making you think that you chose medicine.
But in all honesty, in retrospect, I don't blame them actually.
Yeah,
I don't blame my
yeah,
parents or any of the parents that actually made their kids study
yeah,
whatever. I mean, even though we're presently in the 21st century, so in a world where we want to give the kids all the options in the world and the freedom to choose and free will and all that, but you have to consider the setting, Nigerian setting, what kind of courses will give you job security. What kind of courses will actually make sure that you can put 3 square meals on your table and on your kids' table and your family's table.
yeah.
And medicine and law for you. So if you think of it from that aspect, from that point of view, then it makes total sense. Just like you, I remember you saying to me one time that you want your kid to become a footballer, Project Mbappe.
Project Mbappe now. It's too short. It's too
Yeah,
short.
exactly. And now everybody wants to force their kids to become footballers and, and,
Yeah.
and basketball players and all that. It's the
Um,
same thing.
yeah. I understand. I understand. So your I know I would imagine that your interest in the human mind is the thing that led you to write this what's your book concerning fear. Yes, I have a few questions that I found interesting. I'd never thought about the origin of fear before, and concepts like the is it mono reflex or be moral reflex. So how would you explain the origin of fear? Like where does fear come from? Do you think?
Uh, the thing is, first of all, yes, you're correct. Part of my interest in the human mind is part of the reasons, not the sole reason, but part of the reasons why I picked up that, how do you call it? Went on that adventure of writing a book. I will call it an adventure. You know what the moral reflex is? It's basically in babies and infants and kids. If you have an infant and you try to drop them or you pretend to drop them or something, of course, hopefully you can catch them before they hit the ground. You notice that they have a kind of how do you say it? Reflection, not reflection, and
Reflex.
what's the word? Yeah, that they reflex, right?
Yeah.
That they exhibit, on fear of being dropped from that particular height. Now, you don't have to teach the baby that being dropped is a bad thing, or teach or tell them that okay, when you get dropped, this is what happens to you. But it just comes naturally. You asked me about the origin of fear. I want to say something first, which is that when we say fear, people naturally assume it to be a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Fear is good for you and for me, actually. In fact, fear, at least to some extent, is part of the reasons why the human species, has existed even up to this point,
Yeah.
right? So it's part of our biology, right? The question is how much fear. Okay, I fear that when I go out, I could get hit by a car. Okay, but how much do you fear that? Do you fear it so much that you cannot go out every day? You just sit down in your house morning till night, or do you just are concerned about it enough that when you go out, you're careful when you cross the streets and all that, so you don't get hit. So that's all that. I just wanted to point that out. Exactly.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. In some sense, what you're saying is that, as in, given that, even though, because I would imagine as a child, as true, you look at children, their brains have not yet fully developed, and yet they already have this reflex to try to, like, for that in case they are falling, they already have that inbuilt fear of falling. You understand? Inbuilt fear of falling that helps them, that helps to stop them from falling. And again, I think make sure correct me if I'm wrong here, but the next thing you said concerning fear is given that is something that I would imagine, if you look at it through evolution, it's something that we have come to, that is something that in fact has kept the species alive. You understand? And has helped us reach the point where we are a fear of, a fear of things and things that can go wrong, the fear of things that can go wrong and things that can possibly go right. And there is like a spectrum of how much you fear the thing. Like, so like, let's say I want to walk outside. You can fear, obviously, if you go outside, things can happen, bad things can happen to you. But when you fear it so much that it's crippling, that you cannot just go outside, that's where the fear begins to stop making sense. You understand? And in your book, you wrote, you said that their fear is on the spectrum, essentially. That there is rational fear and there is irrational fear. How can you distinct? What's the difference between both of them?
Firstly, to comment on the thing about the baby, where you said the baby has the infant, for lack of a better term, has an inbuilt fear of falling. I want to put it this way. Um, I think it makes more sense when we say it's an inbuilt inhibition or apprehension of what the consequences of falling might be,
Okay.
to that kid, to that infant.
Yeah.
Uh, and yes, of course, rational and talking about rational and irrational fear. Now, if you actually check I wouldn't want to spill everything, of course, so that your audience will still have a reason to go and read.
Yeah.
When you talk about rational and irrational fear, it's just as the word describes, right? Um, when the fear, there's a reason for your fear. There's a clear logic for it, and it's proportional to the reason, and the amount of fear you have is proportional to the reason for that fear. Then I can term it rational. For instance, if I had been bitten by a dog once in my life, I remember once actually I was chased. I lived in Enugu then in Transekulu. I've forgotten the number of the street, and I was sent to. I was a kid, of course. I was still in primary school. I was sent to buy stuff for my mom sent me on an errand. I think she was in the kitchen and she needed something, right? So impromptu. Hey, go buy this and it's finished.
Yeah. No more.
And I was running as a kid, what more do I know? We had a neighbor that had a dog, but the gate was always locked.
Okay.
Well, on this particular day, while I was already done buying this stuff, I was coming back and I was running. On this particular day, for some reasons best known to the neighbor, the gate was open. And I didn't know I was running. And then the dog just came out and ran after me. And then I was like, okay, now I'm no more running. I'm just running. I'm running for my
Yeah,
life
only
at the
for your
same
life.
time.
You're not ready to buy something again. It's life or death now.
Exactly. And I was hoping that my gate should be open by the time I get there, because otherwise, imagine getting to a locked gate and then the dog is behind you.
No, just looking at you. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so I tripped actually while I was running, and the dog was right behind me and came up to me. Luckily, he just sniffed. How do you call it? Sniff, snuff, whatever.
Yeah,
Sniffed on
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
and then it went back. It didn't bite me. But imagine it had bitten me or something. Of course, I would develop a fear for dogs, stray dogs, and all that, right? An
Yeah.
apprehension. When I see dogs, I would, get some kind of, oh, I've been bitten before. I should be careful. If my
Okay.
fear is proportional to the fact that I have been bitten by a dog, or that I just makes me careful of dogs and stay away from them, or maybe not want to own a dog, that's understandable. That's rational. If I stay at my house the next day and all the year I stay in my house all day, all year, because there are dogs. Who knows where I'll meet dog? I don't want to go out there because I could find dogs and they'll bite me again, right? Then we should begin to put question marks. Okay, now this is not rational and not proportional to the reason why you fear dogs.
Yeah.
That's just a short description of that. Of course, I have more details on that in the book, and I
Yeah.
would encourage the audience to check it out.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. When the fear, when something terrible has happened before, and it's I don't know if the proper word is, it's crippling to the sense that that the person will develop a reasonable fear of it. There is a friend of mine in university got stabbed as she was coming back from her hostel. She got stabbed on that. There was this side that is very dark in the streets on the way to her hostel, and she got they stabbed her, stole and stole her phone. And so anytime she's passing there, like at night, first of all, she stopped going out at night, all this type of stuff. But anytime she's passing there, she'll call me just to walk, just to walk with her past that place. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yes,
That
I
makes
so
sense. Yeah.
yeah. I understand. So that's what we call rational fear. Okay, I want
That's rational enough, right? She's not calling you to walk all the way from her house to every location.
uh,
Or I don't know if you get that point.
yeah, because there could be tips
Or she doesn't
everywhere.
just stay at home and say, exactly. Or she doesn't just stay at home and say, I'm not going out again because I got stabbed randomly, so I might get stabbed today and tomorrow. And of course, those things could happen. But if they cripple you, if they affect, there's something we say about when we diagnose some psychological mental illnesses or psychological conditions. There's usually a very important condition. For instance, when you want to diagnose depression or schizophrenia or something, they
Yeah,
say, according to DSM-5 at least, when it affects your social cultural life, right? When it has an effect on your life, your social cultural life, and all that, then we begin to think of, okay, now this is getting out of
it
hand,
is serious.
right? So that's a very important characteristic of or distinction between rationality and irrationality in terms of fear.
Okay. Um. Another fascination of mine I had with your work was how you broke down how fear can be used in different parts of our lives. You understand? So let's say how do you think fear is used in politics?
That's an interesting one because it's one that I particularly like. Um, Actually, fear is used in um, um, almost everything that we do in life, politics, education, and all that, right? I fail to remember the name of the former U.S. vice president who
Mike
said,
Pence.
no, not Mike Pence. His daughter was also in the Senate. I forgot his name. Anyway, I will remember it and I'll tell you. He said something about the politics of fear. He happened to become, I think, right now he's an his name escapes me. It's right on my on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember. He's an environmentalist now. He got a Nobel Peace Prize, I think, for his work on the environment and on what do you call it, climate change and all that. He said something about the. He was Republican, by the way. He said something about the. You see, I remember all the details about him, but not his name. um, is it Al Gore? I don't think so. Anyway, he said something about the politics of fear, right? Which is basically um, when the politicians come to you, right? Al Gore, actually, yeah, it was Al Gore that said something about. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Al
Yeah.
Gore. Yeah, the politics. He said something about the politics of fear, which is basically putting fear in the electorate, the citizens, in order to raise up their emotions with having in mind to achieve a particular goal. For instance, the goal could be to get them to vote a certain way
It's
on a
certain way.
referendum or in an election
Yeah.
or to accept your policies or something like that. For instance, when a politician comes to you and and stresses a lot on crime, we will fight crime. Yesterday somebody got killed. 2 days ago somebody got killed. Next, and then brings all these things to the forefront in order to give you a particular kind of emotion, be it anger, be it disappointment, be it sadness, turn you up, and then affect you to vote in a certain way. That is the politics of fear. The popular one these days, or at least recently in Europe and North America, is immigration, immigrants, the fear of immigrants. The right wing politicians, especially, turn up the heat on immigration. Immigrants are coming to take your job, or immigrants are coming to kill you. Donald Trump said they are bringing from Mexico. They are bringing germs and bad people and thieves and murderers. He painted them in black. What was he doing exactly?
It's fear.
This is the politics
Weaponizing
of
fear.
fear. So
Yeah.
that's one way, weaponizing the fear that you have against losing your jobs, against having murderers and thieves amongst you, against and all that. So when you weaponize that, that's one way. Of course, there's a positive way to do that. I hope at least. But yeah, that's a short example on that.
I understand. It's very interesting. I don't know how, because I'm still going to ask you how it's used in, let's say, the workplace. But concerning what you said, an example just came to my mind. But I would imagine of how fear is entrenched in almost everything. But I would imagine that's more in that's more in business. In business, I was reading this book by Brian Tracy, the psychology of selling, and in the book he said something that most people use. There's a difference when you want to get someone to buy something. You can use fear as you understand, as a technique to do it. You can say something like, well, if you don't buy this thing, you will lose this thing. Do you understand? It works as a more powerful message when you say you will lose something instead of saying you will gain something. Do you understand? If I say, okay, fine,
Mhm.
buy these shoes, you will gain this, or and I say, if you don't buy these shoes, you will lose this. It's the loss, the fear
Yeah, the
of
message in the
loss.
framing of your message. Yeah, exactly. In a negative connotation, in a negative tilting your message negatively tends to have more effect, tends to elicit more response, at least the desired response from the recipient of your message than a positive listen. And that's because humans naturally um, we have an apprehension, a stronger apprehension towards fear or for fear, for sorry, for loss than we appreciate gain. For instance, if I give you, let's say, $10, for instance, and I give you an opportunity to lose $1 from that $10 or to gain $2, if I set up the experiment right, most times humans will choose not to lose the $1. Do you get the point?
Yeah, yeah.
Even if it means that gambling on that choice that might lose you $1 might also gain you $2 or $3. But they'll say, oh no, there's a chance of losing $1. I don't want to do that. Do you get the point?
Yes, I understand. I just imagine how much of that, how much of that affects, how much of that is based on the personality of the individual. Well, when I was a uni, there was this argument that my friends and I had, serious argument, that they said, let's imagine that you have about, yeah, you have $1 million, you have a million, Abi? Yes, you have the idea. It was framed something like you have $1 million, and then there's a 50-50, there's a 50% chance that if you use that $1 million, you understand, you can get a billion, but at the same time you will lose it. You lose it. What do you do? I mean,
You
and
might.
yeah, yeah, you might lose it. You might gain a billion, or you lose the 50 completely. Oh, sorry, you lose the billion
Yeah.
dollar, the $1 million completely. And so at the time, my friends, all of them were like, guy, some of them were like, guy, just keep the million. I'm like, of course not. So at the time, it used to drive me crazy that it used to drive me crazy that my friends did not choose, like it's like it was a 1 in 2 chance to get a billion. You understand? And they were just so afraid of losing the one. They were just so afraid of losing the 1 million, and it didn't make sense to me at the time. So I just wonder how much of personality, how much our personality plays into fear.
That's a good question, to be honest. The question about personality is an interesting one, which I did not really, I haven't really explored deeply. Talking about it from the angle of, in psychology, we have different ways of measuring personality. There's a very popular one, the five-dimensional types of personality. Amongst the five dimensions, we have conscientiousness personality, openness, um, can you imagine that I'm forgetting the five of them?
Neuroticism,
Neuroticism,
yeah.
different personality traits. So basically, some of these personality types, the thing about this personality type is that depending on the one that you, of course, there's no absolute. You're not just pure openness and nothing else. It's like a grade, a spectrum, and you fall somewhere on the spectrum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Depending on where you fall on the spectrum, that determines a lot how you process events, manage events, and all that.
Yeah.
For instance, the same thing can happen to us. Let's say, using the example of a dog again, or maybe let's say we both lost money in some venture, business venture, or that. Depending on your personality type and my personality type, I I might process it differently, right, than you. And my processing of it, my different processing of it might lead me to a different conclusion and a different action in the future. Let's say I say, okay, it happens in life. That's my processing of it. Happens. It's normal. I'll try again. Whereas you're like, oh my God, I just lost money. I should never do this again. This is so bad. It's a bad omen. No, no, no. Why do bad things always happen to me and all that? And then you never go on that venture again, or you
Yeah.
even get depressed and all that.
Yeah.
So in this way, that's the way you can link fear to personality types. So of course, events that could happen to us, depending on how you process it, which depends a lot on your personality type, uh, will determine the outcome of that for you. I was just also talking to I was talking to my friend about he said something about fear, how you can make fear work for you, for instance, which is, let's say you fear getting fat in the future. That's the particular example he used. By the way, the friend is Ufoma Apoki. He has a PhD in computer science.
Yeah.
A really great guy.
Yeah.
He was talking about how, let's say you fear getting fat, right? And then, but you like to eat sweets and chocolate. Okay, now you have a question. I fear to get fat, but do I use this fear to propel me from from stopping eating sweets?
To take to consume too
Because
much
I'm going to get
sweets.
diabetes. I'm going to have to cut my legs, my
Yeah.
hands, and everything. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I fear. I don't want to get my hands cut and my legs cut and all that. So because of that, I'll stop eating sweets. Or does it become negative on me? Now, and I mentioned something in the course of that discussion, right? I mentioned that it's actually big work, a big mental task to flip a situation, process it in a way that can make you take positive steps and actions, right? It actually takes a lot of mental dexterity.
Okay.
And that mental dexterity depends a lot on personality and on training.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I understand. I understand. I'm in agreement with the training part. I've come to realize that anything concerning fear, that there's this idea that if you are scared of something, or if you are afraid of something, little courses of action is actually the best way to get rid of it. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So let's say you have some sort of self doubt or fear about something. You understand? What's in essence that you don't really have. The actual thing you don't have is experience, or no, not experience, is information. You don't have information about. Let's say you want to start a business now, and you are scared. Will I be good at the business? The best thing to do is to actually just start the business and keep on going. Is as you keep on doing that you gain information to know if you are actually good at that thing. And you understand, action helps remove fear. So I do agree. I do agree seriously with that part of, with that training aspect of removing fear.
Just to comment on that, especially on the personality types, they do I do recall them now. Extroversion, there's agreeableness, there's
Yes.
openness,
Yes.
and there's
Openness to experience.
neuroticism
Yeah.
and conscientiousness, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Now, the folks that have that grade higher or score higher on, let's say, traits like agreeableness and openness and extroversion tend to be more outward oriented, more they can handle these things like these fear situations better
Yes.
because they're not inward. Okay, now if I go into outward orientation and inward orientation, that's a different thing altogether, which also contributes, right?
Yes.
But just know, for the sake of the viewers, that extroversion, agreeableness, and openness are more positively oriented when it comes to stuff like this, and they tend to be able to handle situations better in terms of fear and the negative effects of it. But also, what you referred to about, if you fear something, then the best thing is just to do it. It's something we call graded exposure.
Graded
in
exposure.
psychology. And that's basically, let's say you're a therapist and a client comes to you and they fear dogs. I don't know why I keep going back to dogs, but there was a case
Maybe you
actually. I
fear
saw
dogs.
a case of a client. He was a big guy. He goes to the gym and everything. He like a bouncer or something, but
Yeah.
he was scared of dogs. Not just big dogs. You see all these little chihuahuas, and he was scared of any kind of dogs at all. And when you look at this big, tall, macho guy, and you look at the dog, and this fear was so not just that okay, I don't want to go near the dog. No, he will run away from that particular location, and you will see him literally. He's a white guy, so you see him literally turning pink. Right. So how you do it is you expose him step by step, right, to it. First of all, start with pictures of the dogs, then maybe videos, and then maybe you go 10 meters from the dog, and then tomorrow after some time when he gets acclimatized to it, you go 3 meters to the dog, and then 1 meter, and then okay, touch it now, and then okay, pet it now. Okay, now carry it now. So that's how you gradedly expose the person to the particular situation they fear. Um, and then with each step as they get acclimatized to it, you increase the intensity of their exposure to that particular thing. For instance, um, I wouldn't want to. You talk about your friend that had was robbed or something
Yes.
on a particular spot. Some people have had that kind of incident, that bad incident, unfortunately, and they couldn't pass that place at all, right?
Yeah.
So in therapy, what you do is okay, you expose the person bit by bit. Okay, now we'll go with friends. Well, let's go four of us, but 4 or 5. Let's go there. Let's not to that particular street, but let's go close to it. Okay, the next time we'll go closer to it. Next time we're two. Okay, let's just go to the entrance, but not pass through. And then you pass through slowly, and then just slowly until the person gets acclimatized to that.
Okay, okay, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. This phenomenon you just explained, that but this graded, is it graded response, that I think is what you said, that where you,
Graded exposure.
okay, yes, graded exposure, that way, that's a way to we can use to overcome fear. I would imagine that we can use that in, it's we can use that in almost every walk of life. You understand? If you want to start a business, if if you want to learn a new skill, anything that people are scared of or have a bit of self doubt, and is something that we can use. How do you think we'll be able to use it in, let's say, our careers, for example?
Um, yes, I was describing it a practical in a clinical setting, but of course, you can also apply it to your normal your daily life.
Yeah.
If you want to start a career, let's say a very high risk career, or maybe it requires a lot of investment. Let's say you want to be an airline
Pilot.
pilot. Of course,
Yes.
you need to spend a lot of money or stuff. What I usually do, I would say what I do for myself when I want to embark on an adventure, be it a project or whatever, that I have, I'm not fully mentally prepared for yet, or I have some apprehensions.
Mm.
I start slowly, depending on what it is, of course.
Yes.
If it requires something that I have to put money in, and maybe I have to buy some instruments, I buy one, and then I buy
Okay.
the second one, and then I
Okay.
buy the third one. And then at the point I'm like, okay, and now I have no choice. I have all the instruments. I cannot
So
just
I can
so
start.
so it depends. I cannot give you a one size fits all kind of package that will work for everything.
Yes.
But it depends on the adventure. If it's something that can be broken, if it's an adventure that can be broken down in bits, then sometimes the way to overcome fear of that is to break it down in bits, and then take them bit by bit. You know what they say? I think there's an adage that says when you want to eat an elephant, you have to cut it into tiny bits.
Yeah.
Because when you
Yeah.
look at the elephant, oh my God, this is so huge. I can't finish this stuff. It's crazy. All right. But
Yeah.
when you take one bite after the other, one bite after the other, one bite after the other, and then before you know, the elephant is down and gone and all in your stomach.
That's
So that
that.
would be a description for that.
No, that's really fascinating. Is what was interesting is that it's such a it's such a natural way. I think that's the proper way to put it. A natural, a natural fundamental way of doing things. You understand? It's natural if you really think about it. That anytime you want to solve a major task, it helps to break down that task into small actionable bits. You understand? And that way,
That is very correct. That is very correct. That way, that way also you can set achievable goals for yourself. I want to be a pilot, and my ultimate goal is to be a pilot. But I don't just wake up tomorrow and become a pilot. It doesn't happen. There's no genie that will wish it, wish it and
yeah,
it will come
yeah.
true. So you have to break it down into tiny achievable goals. Okay, if I want to be a pilot in 5 years' time, what do I do between today and tomorrow that will lead up to my becoming a pilot in 5 years' time? Okay, what do I do between today and next week? What about today and next month? What about today and next year? And then when you achieve each milestone, you can say, okay, I've done this, I've gotten my bachelor BSc, I've done this, I've done that. And then at the end of 5 years, when you add all those little one day, 24 hours, 1 month, and all that together, voila, you're flying for EasyJet or Peace Air Peace or
Epic.
whatever airline you want to fly for.
It's just it's reading your book, and even as this discussion is going, it's it's obvious that fear is can be used as a very good manipulator. It can be used as a very good manipulator. I wonder between fear and love, which one can be used to manipulate people more. I would imagine that it's fear, simply because people really hate losing. You understand? And it's a shame because if you want to be successful at all in life, you have to be very comfortable with the idea of losing. You will lose a lot. You understand? But it's just a very interesting thought that came to my head that both of them can be used to manipulate in really grand scales. You understand? And there's also a point in your book where you were saying that when you say something that let's say in religion now, that why is it fear that they use, that if you want to make an argument about let's say for example the love of God, you can just make the argument, you don't need to put hell. But it seems as if what's it called, it seems as if fear is put there in order to make it more, how will I put it, it seems the fear is put there in order to make it have more weight, to make people comply. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I'll say something first of all to comment on what you said about fear versus love. Machiavelli said something in his book, in a very popular book, his most notable work, I think it's called The Prince.
Yes, the
He
prince.
said it is better to be feared than to be
Than
loved
to be
if
loved.
one cannot be both, right?
Yes, that he said that in
So that's
context of
one.
you being a politician now. Yeah, his argument
Yeah, he
was
of course was
how to
writing on
be
the
how to
contemporary politics and
yes.
everything of his time, but he made a point that fear is a better motivator than love. And if you're a leader and you want to affect people and make them join your cause or convince them towards a cause, then fear will be a better bet for you than making them love you. Because I love you today, but somebody comes, I love them more,
I
and
love
then
them the other day.
so talking about connecting that to what you said about, I think you mentioned in religion,
Yes.
why is fear that is used and not love? I think Machiavelli answers the question, to be honest, because negative emotions tend to have much stronger effect on us than positive emotions. Um, 0.1% of fear is much stronger than 0.1% of love. To equate to get the amount of fear of love that matches fear, let's say for 0.1% of fear, you might need like 10% of love, for instance.
Yes.
That's the balance.
I
I don't know if
understand.
you get that
I understand your
analogy, right?
yeah.
So when the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or whatever religious text you use, I will focus more on the Bible because I was raised in a Christian
background.
family, so I'm more familiar with that. When he talks about the fear of God, interesting fact, the fear of God is mentioned more than love of God in the Bible. And this is a book that focuses, that people tell us, the preachers tell us that it's about the love of God and how to love God. But it mentions fear much more. And how many times does it mention the word love? You can count them with your with your fingers. So there is more there's more focus on fear and painting the consequences of not of not having that fear towards God in a very negative light, which also increases the fear or intensifies the fear, and then eventually or ultimately pushes you towards the way that the Bible or God or whoever it is, the priest, wants you to go anyway. A simple example would be when you asked me to. I usually ask my friend this question. I asked one of my friends actually, more a couple of them this question. Okay, you want me to love God, right? Okay, what is the concept? What is the benefit of loving God? Hey, you be blessed, you live long life, and do that. Okay, what are the consequences of not loving God? You go to hellfire. So that means the love is, I'm not loving you just because I want to be blessed, but I know that if I don't love you,
I
it's
would
not
die.
much of an option, right? Because if I don't
Yeah,
love you, then I'm going to hellfire,
yeah. Is
right? And
it?
then you tell me that there's free will. No, but there's no free will because your concept of free will in this context is very, very limited. How can you say I have free will, but you're threatening me with something I fear, which is burning in fire forever and ever
it's
if I don't do what you
it's
say?
it's this thing. I don't know if you have had this very popular something that's going doing what's called Escobar near the time of of Narcos, the drug cartels and everything, and so they meet a politician.
Medellin cartel of Pablo, led by Pablo Escobar.
Yeah. They meet a politician and they want to bribe the politician. And they say, listen, no, it's not as if we want you to join us. We don't want to kill you. But see what will happen. This is the money and this is a gun. If you don't take the money, we'll kill you. Do you understand? It's like so even if he and we also kill like we can also kill your children. So it's like even if we don't even if we say that how they'll put it is that he joined us, but it's like I did not join you. You said you were going to kill me and my wife.
You didn't give me a choice.
It's not a choice. It's
You
like
didn't give me
you
a
didn't give
choice,
me a,
did you?
yeah, but they were like, but I gave you money. No, you did not give me. You didn't. There are not many choices here. It's just so. I do
So
understand. I
the
do
fear of the
understand.
bullet is what they use. Yeah, true. And in the case of religion, it would be the fear of eternal damnation.
Eternal damnation.
Will be the equivalent of the bullet.
The suffering without end.
Um,
It seems to me that fear. It seems to me that fear is something that can be used to manipulate a huge crowd. It seems to me of all the forces that can be used to manipulate to push, let's say, a revolution, fear. It seems to me. And you can also make a case that for most revolutions, it's fear that people use. It seems that sometimes that would be a good thing. That's okay. Let's choose a revolution that like that you can say that, okay, let's say it's good, for example, that okay, fine, the Americans say they want to be on our own. Well, how much of that can you attribute to fear that okay, fine, we want to stay on our own? If we don't, we will be still be under these people, and they will and they can use it to control our lives. See, you can obviously put that to the fear of control. Like, you don't want people to control you. So I would imagine that in most cases fear can still fear perhaps is still the greatest thing you can use to control a massive group of people.
I think I'll ask you a question. I'll answer that by just asking you a question, which is, I'll challenge you. I challenge you rather to mention one aspect of our lives of society um, that fear cannot be used to achieve a particular goal, be it control of people or that or manipulation of people. Politics, education, child parenting, whatever, name it. I challenge you to mention one.
So essentially, with that, essentially, human beings, most of the things we do is just in an attempt to in an attempt for us to solve a problem, like solve a problem caused by fear. No, not caused by fear. I don't think I'm putting this correctly. Almost everything we do
Um,
is an attempt to should I say quell a fear, to try to reduce the fear we have over something. That's why we're trying to control it. I don't know if you understand what I'm
what
trying
I'll
to say.
say to that is that my theory, and this is very practical because when you look in the world, if you just look, you would see it, right? My theory is that the world itself, would I even say it's a theory since it's practical? The world itself is built on fear. Society as we know it today is built on fear. Why do you go to work? You go to work to earn money to live a better life. But why exactly? Because you know if you don't go, you fear the consequences of what will happen. You'll be poor, you'll be dejected, you won't have friends, you won't be able to feed your family and all that. Why do you go to school and learn? I don't like mathematics, but I had to take mathematics. I had to write
I
it in
like
my exam. Why?
mathematics. I just want
Okay,
to
I
say that
don't,
I
for
love
instance.
mathematics.
For the record, you do, right? For the record, I don't. I think I got a C in mathematics, if I remember, and I was like,
Hey,
hallelujah,
yeah,
hallelujah,
you tried.
bye bye. But my point is that most of the world itself, sorry, as we know, society, sorry, as we know it, is actually built on the foundation of fear. It's in child parenting, for instance, when you, as a parent, tell your child, okay, go inside, go and sleep now, otherwise, Ujuju Calabar, I will call Ujuju for you, boogeyman.
Yeah,
What is that?
yeah.
What are you doing? What are
That's
you
a
doing? And that's
Nigerian
the
something.
funny thing is that we propagate this fear. We're making the child fear the consequences of not going to bed because, of course, Ojuju Calabar will come for them, right? But then we unconsciously propagate this fear from generation to generation because now you've taught the child to fear the boogeyman,
Okay.
the Ojuju Calabar in Nigerian
Yeah, yeah,
parlance,
yes,
right?
yeah.
And then you've inculcated that in him. This is something to fear. This is one amongst many, right?
I understand.
But also, apart from teaching him to fear this, you've also unconsciously taught him how to use fear. Because when he grows up, he will say, okay, I can do this, so I can threaten my kids with this. So it worked for me, it should work for them.
It should work for them.
You know. Or
Yes,
when you
sir.
tell your child, okay, you have to go to school every day from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., even though that's not very advisable. Otherwise, you become a motor park, they used to call
A
it
mechanic.
abero. I remember my parents used to threaten me with
Yeah,
that. You
yeah, yeah,
become
yeah.
abero, a mechanic. My dad told me you become a shoemaker. He made me fear becoming a, a shoemaker, and because of that, I had to go to school and study so I don't become a
A
shoemaker and
shoemaker.
all that. So some things we do, some things we do innocently, have the effect of inculcating this fear and propagating it through generations from one generation to the other. So ultimately, our lives, our society is built on a foundation of fear.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the theme. That's the theme. Actually, that's the overarching theme of the book. And then what I try to do, sorry, towards the what I did towards the end of the book is I wanted to make people aware. You know, you need to open your eyes. You need to actually know why you're doing certain actions. Why are you going to
Yes.
church? Why are you putting those tithes in the tithe box and offering box? Do you really want to do that, or is it because you fear what will happen if you don't
What
do it?
happened if
Why
you
are
don't?
you going to work? Why are you in the job you are right now? So I want people to be aware of the ways fear has been. Why are you voting for that politician? It's the ways fear has been used to control, have to maintain control over our lives, and then ultimately how to break free from that,
From
so
that.
that when you're carrying out a particular action, you are carrying it out for a particular reason that you know, not because of an unconscious, unknown fear that is pushing you to carry out that particular action.
Oh, I understand. I understand. So I would imagine the at least knowing that I guess the challenge here is what you're trying to teach us is that knowing that just having the knowledge that fear can be used to manipulate you a lot, and teaching the people to ask teaching people rather to ask just a very simple question: is this rational or is this irrational fear? Anytime something comes up, you understand. I would imagine that would help greatly. So if you want to start something new, you want to embark in a new journey, or someone or something happens, you can just simply ask, okay, fine, is this rational fear? Am I afraid of this thing? Just am I doing this thing just because just because of the fact that I'm afraid, or even if I'm afraid, is it rational for me to be afraid? In that way. You understand? Given that we have already made a distinction between rational and irrational fear, so I would imagine anytime that we find out that this is irrational, this fear is irrational, we should probably put what's called press the brakes. But if even though the fear is rational, You know, if the fear is rational, rather we can still go along with it. Like let's say the example you gave concerning you losing your job. You understand? If you probably want, if that's the only option you have, you probably want to keep your job. You understand? But if you are good at other things and you can still improve, and if you can still rather do other things rather, and that you just want to leave, how will I put this? You just want to um, and it's becoming irrational rather is you, you can do other things and you're becoming
Mm-hmm.
irrational. You understand what I'm saying? Like let's say
Mm-hmm.
you have this job
Mm-hmm.
that you have this job that you're doing right now, and there's still another thing that you want to do, that you want to try, you want to what's it called, you want to try out, but you still have that fear of or what if I fail, that self-doubt. You understand? That one is irrational. You understand? You should probably do it. But if you want say you want to quit all your jobs, you want to stop working at all, that one, sorry, that you're working and you don't want to obviously lose all your jobs, any source of income. You understand? That's irrational fear. That makes sense. That you should probably not lose all your sources of income. You understand? But you going after something that will probably add to your what's it called, to your success, and you don't want to go after it. Like you want to go after something that will add to your success, but there's this self doubt in you. That's an irrational fear. I don't know if you understand my whole lab.
You talked something. You said something about being aware, and I find that you're correct on that point. Awareness is a very important and practical tool.
Yeah.
If you are aware of, for instance, when you listen to the news at night and a politician is saying something, and you are aware of the methods he's using or what he's trying to do,
Mm,
then you can make a conscious decision first of all, and a conscious of if what he's saying is true or not,
yeah.
right? If he has any weight to it, and then make it, and then from that, from your analysis, you can then make a conscious decision of what to believe, what to walk by, how to vote, and
Yeah.
all of that. So
What to
being
be
aware
skeptical
is the
about.
first step. Because if you're sick, for instance, and you don't know you're sick, you wouldn't even want to go to the doctor. You don't have any reason. But when
Yeah.
you're aware that, oh, I'm sick, that's the first step towards healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, being aware is a very important thing, which is what I try to do in the book, right? I try to make people aware of the many ways that fear is being used
Yeah.
in our lives, the many angles, so that when you see these things happening to you tomorrow, you can recognize them, okay, and then you can then make conscious efforts and conscious decisions on what to do about them.
What to do about it. Okay. So aside from gradually improving step by step, you understand the example that you gave earlier, what other ways can we overcome fear, or is that the only way?
Um, there's not one way. There's no one, what do you call it, one size fits all. It's not just one way, and then if you don't do this way, that's it. You're X'd.
Mm,
Bye
yeah.
bye. No, of course there is different ways and different methods and mechanisms, and I expatiated on them in the book. Now, if I told you everything, you wouldn't have a reason to get the book, would you? So this is why you would have to actually go check the book out, and then you find out the different mechanisms I put there. I even came up with some acronyms that will help you make it easier. One of them is think, THINK.
Yeah.
That'll make it easier for you to recognize this fear and also act on it in a way that it does not have hold over your life. I'm sure you're wondering what think might
Yes,
mean
now.
in this
Yeah.
context.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I'm sure that will be your next question. Well, it's a little test that I actually came up with. Um, when you are confronted with the situation, right? Let me give the popular example. You're listening to the news, and some politician is saying some stuff, be it right wing or left wing, that doesn't really make sense. Or even if makes sense and it sounds sweet to hear,
It sounds
hey,
sketchy.
now is a moment to pause and think. Is it true? What the person is saying, is it true? Is it testable? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
What can you actually verify these things independently or of the person that is actually making the claim?
Okay.
H, is what they're saying half baked? Because I've realized, if you realize, if you sorry, I have realized that people tend to pick and choose facts that corroborate their point of view and give you those facts, those examples in
That's
order
true.
to
It's,
make
yeah,
their
that's a
point and
fallacy.
convince you.
It's called nitpicking. When they just choose one part
Yeah,
of the story, yeah, it's a fallacy.
exactly. So, okay, the politician wants to convince you to vote, and he says crime is increasing. Okay, yeah, but he didn't tell you some other part, which is that crime has definitely been going down. It's just there was a little uptick, maybe because of a
Recently,
certain reason
yeah,
or
yeah.
that. He wouldn't tell you all that. He just says crime is increasing, and you say, "Oh
That's
my God, crime
yeah.
is increasing."
That's using
You get
statistics to lie.
basically.
Yeah.
So I stands for what is the speaker's interest? I stands for interest. Okay, what does the speaker stand to
To
gain? He's
gain.
making this claim, but what does he gain from it? Right? Okay, if I do what he's saying and I believe what he's saying and I do what he's asking me to do, does he benefit from it? If the person saying making the claim has something to benefit, it's vested interest the person has. So they're of course making a claim that will convince you to go their way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To carry out the action that he or she wants you to carry out. Therefore, you should think about that two times because it might be in their interest does not mean that it is in your own interest.
I understand.
N stands for what will a neutral party say. If somebody that was not connected to this particular situation came here, let's say somebody from another country or another to this speaker and then consider the situation, the person has nothing to gain or lose, so they don't have any reason to be partial, right? What will they say? Will they corroborate the speaker's claim or otherwise? Then K stands for keel hauling.
Kill
Basically,
Holland.
what this means is yes, exactly. What this means is can this speaker tolerate criticism of their points? Right? What is their level of tolerance or appetite for tolerance of criticism? Okay, am I welcome to say, okay, yeah, you made a claim about this, but you know, this isn't that factual. Let's put this in context. This is not
Context.
true. This is right.
Yes,
If
yes.
the person is open to criticism, then that's a more balanced speaker or someone that is actually people that are trying to sell you bullshit or make you fear usually are not open to criticism. They don't like it or they
Yes.
react to it strongly in a negative manner. So that's one acronym that I use in
That
that
yeah.
I used in the book, and then there are others also. But the ultimate aim was or is to help the reader be aware and then equip the reader with practical tools to overcome these things,
To
at least to make decisions that they are aware of consciously that will be in the reader's interest, as opposed to the other elements in society that have vested interest in the reader's choices and decisions.
I understand. I understand. Okay. Where where should people go to on social media if they want to disturb you or if they want to read more of your work?
Disturbance is ultimately welcomed. Of course, positive disturbance.
Positive disturbance.
Um, you can find me on Instagram. And my Instagram is IM_DROGAMDI.
Yeah, I'll put the link.
DROGAMDI. If you want to read more of my work, you can find some write up I've been doing on Medium. Under the my name on Medium or my handle on Medium is Emmanuel Ogamdi. That's Emmanuel Emmanuel Ogamdi
You're spelling
Ogam.
Emmanuel for people.
There's different spelling. You'll be surprised that there's different ways to spell Emmanuel. There's Emmanuel with an I. There's Emmanuel with one M. Depends on yeah. There is different ways. Not everybody spells it.
It goes,
I'm I learned something newly. The Greek word for Emmanuel is Manolis.
That's actually fresh. If
So
we are being serious, that's actually that's way more cool. Manolis.
so if you hear anywhere Manolis, that's Emmanuel. That's Greek for Emmanuel.
Yeah, I
You know.
found out that Peter too in Yoruba Peter is called Peteru. I was
Is what?
Peteru.
Peteru, Beru, para.
It was too funny.
In Romanian, it's Petru. Petru.
Petru. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Petru. Peteru.
So where
Anyway, I'm
so
sorry.
language is a beautiful thing. We have your Instagram, your LinkedIn. I say LinkedIn. Your Medium.
My medium.
How about Twitter? I know your Twitter handle anyway.
Yes, you know my Twitter handle, so I think you can post it there. I don't even actually know what it is now. I think it's Emmanuel Ogamdi,
Yeah.
Doctor. No, it's Ogamdi underscore OGAMDI underscore. That's it. That's
Yeah.
my Twitter handle.
Okay, no problem. Well, Dr. Gamde, thank you for the conversation. Take care of yourself, yeah?
Very nice, and I hope to have you some other time in the
Yeah, take
future.
care. Yeah.
You too.